WarioWare is one of the greatest handheld games of all time, an undisputed classic for those who have had the pleasure of playing it. It's snappy, unrelenting, challenging, and extremely charming. It's no wonder it's one of the games most people think of when the Game Boy's legacy is brought up, myself included. Though lately there has been another game that has joined WarioWare in that regard, 1994's Donkey Kong. While on the surface it looks like exactly what you'd expect out of a Game Boy game titled Donkey Kong, it doesn't take very long for the genius of DK94 to show up. While the first few levels are indeed those from the original Donkey Kong, everything after those is something completely different, a puzzle platformer. DK94's subversion of expectations would be enough to make it an interesting game of its own, but the fact that its execution is damn near flawless is what tips this over the edge into the realm of a must-play. Players must make their way through different puzzle set pieces all accompanied by a Mario whose moveset is way ahead of his time, possessing moves that most players would only come to know once Mario 64 released 2 years later. It's a designer's game in the sense that every trick in the book of good game design is utilized in spectacular fashion. While some levels miss the mark compared to the rest, and the boss fights aren't really much to write home about either, DK94 remains a great handheld experience even after so many years. Its pick up and play nature makes for a phenomenal time that you can get in short bursts or in long sessions. Either way, DK94's brain teasers are sure to at the very least entertain you. The biggest drawback for some is that, at the end of the day, this is still a Game Boy game we're talking about. While it has some fans, the Game Boy aesthetic might not be too appealing to a wider audience. The fact that sometimes a game's sense of aesthetics is what determines whether or not someone is willing to try it out is a bit interesting. Which raises the question, can a game get by through sheer style? If Space Channel 5 is anything to go by, then the answer is a resounding yes. Space Channel 5 isn't a mechanically complex action game to rival Devil May Cry 3, but rather a rhythm game take on Simon Says. On paper, this sounds weird and lame, but Space Channel 5 is legitimately great. Inspired by 1960s aesthetics and Japanese fashion, Space Channel 5 is a unique experience unlike most other rhythm games. The blend of Simon Says and rhythm game mechanics is indeed strange. But after getting into the game's groove, what you'll find is a fairly challenging and rewarding experience full of 90s charm. Space Channel 5 doesn't overstay its welcome, clocking in at about an hour per playthrough, but replays are satisfying as you become more familiar with this title's quirks. The game rewards good play by adding onto its core, the music. Leading a marching band through space as more and more instruments join the fray is addicting in a way that's hard to describe but easy to see. Space Channel 5 is something we're not likely to see return in a proper manner anytime soon. There's plenty styles of games that have been seemingly forgotten by time. For example, the excellent combat mechanics of the Son of the Ender series, which we have covered in this channel before. Another example of this is that of Mortal Kombat Deception's Conquest mode. While the MK series these days is sporting flashy story modes full of fancy cutscenes, the PS2 era was quite different. Mortal Kombat Deception isn't the deepest fighting game out there, not by a mile, and while its other side modes such as puzzle combat and chess combat are quite fun in a group setting, it is the aforementioned Conquest mode that I'd like to specifically recommend. Well, maybe not recommend, but more like suggest? Deception's Conquest mode is clunky, ugly in places, filled with weird stuff, so it's not a very orthodox recommendation. What makes me think it's at least worth trying is how charming it is. Midway wanted to make an open world MK game within their MK game, and you know what, god damn it, they stuck to their fucking guns. This title's environments can be oddly relaxing to traverse, with a neat atmosphere surrounding some of these realms, all accompanied by a cheesy storyline with bad early 2000s voice acting as the cherry on top.
In this realm, the realm of Edenia. But beware, I sense there is another force at work.
Really, the amount of neat things in this side mode is weird, like the nice detail that your character, Shujinko, literally grows older as the endgame clock ticks. While it may be a bit of a chore at times, Conquest mode deserves to at least be looked at, not only for how ambitious it is, but also because of how uniquely ahead of its time it was for fighting games. Chess combat is good too, definitely try that. Once again, thank you for watching and see you next time.